Christmas, my niggas! I hope Santa got you what you wanted this year. I got what I get for Christmas every year. My suffering. And this Christmas is no different, which is why I'm talking about homeopathy today. Homeopathy, unfortunately, is still quite popular, even today. And you'd think with the internet, this retardation would have been thrown into the shadow realm, never to be seen again, but nope. Here we are. People usually talk about homeopathy in the context of human beings, but we aren't the only animals we use homeopathic medicine on. Oh no. Pets and farm animals have also been known to receive homeopathic medicine. Hell, there are even websites that have guides on using homeopathy on pets. Look, here's one called Homeopathic Mistakes to Avoid. True for both your pet and you. The first mistake you made was using homeopathy in general. Now, before I show you why homeopathy was a mistake, I should explain to you what homeopathy is, shouldn't I? Homeopathy is a form of alternative medicine formed in 1796 by a man named Samuel Hahnemann, based on the idea of simila similibus censure, which in English means like cures like. For example, imagine if you get sick with Y, and there is an X that also gives you Y. What you would do is take X and then use the chemicals from it to cure Y. Here, let me show you an example of how they do it. First thing a homeopath would do is they'd find the appropriate chemical. For this demonstration, I'm just going to use some sugar as the appropriate chemical and put it in here. And then you would add the appropriate liquid. And for that, I'm going to use this Jack Daniels to represent the appropriate liquid. So what you would do is after putting, you would add the alcohol, like so. Actually, a little more. There we go. Okay. Now, paragraph 13. Now what they'll do is they'll start to shake it like a baby who won't shut the fuck up. Why? Why are you crying? I already give you my fucking money. What else do you fucking want? Like so. Then they would take a little bit of the shaken recipe. We'll call it a recipe. A little bit of, like that. Like a little bit of that. See that? It'd be like this little. Barely see it, but that's how much they add. Then you would take the rest of the alcohol and then pour that bitch in there. Pour that bitch in there. Yeah, like that. All that bitch in there. Then what we'll do is repeat the process. So we'll take this, right? Take this, and then we'll shake it up. Why won't you shake the fuck up? This process is repeated until the homeopath is satisfied with the dilution. Now, the amount of dilution depends on the homeopath. Some dilute it a lot, some a little. Others dilute it to the point where the chemical in question is gone, but they believe that the spirit of the chemical moves through the liquid. Well, since this alcohol is here, I might as well dilute my depression. Now I could stand here all day just ranting and raving about how homeopathy is worthless, but my opinion's about as useful as homeopathy. I mean, just because I say homeopathy is BS or pseudoscience doesn't mean it's so. After all, I'm just a nigga with a camera. But fortunately, there are studies showing that homeopathy is BS and a pseudoscience. Let's start with some studies that are at least fair to homeopathy, starting with this study here by Matthew and Clausen 2015, which goes over various studies testing homeopathy. This study looked at 20 OTP RCTs, and out of all 20 of these OTP RCTs, only 3 of them had adequate controls. And even then, these 3 OTP RCTs had their own problems and required extreme caution. In fact, the study even concludes that none of the trials can lead to any positive conclusions. This might not sound like I'm being fair, but the study does say this. To clarify the matter, new and substantially improved OTP control research in both individualized and non-individualized veterinary homeopathy is strongly indicated. I mean, it's better than nothing, isn't it? Alright, let me try one that's a bit fairer. It is another Matthew and Clausen study from 2015, and it goes by this name. This study is quite similar to the last one. It looks at a whole bunch of reviews on homeopathy. Most of them are, well, bad, with only 2 of them being reliable, but the conclusion of this one is slightly different, as it says there is very limited evidence that homeopathy is different from placebo.
Parece que realmente has demostrado tu estupidez, Duke. ¿No sabes de que este estudio todavía tiene alguna evidencia de la que homeopatía podría funcionar? De esto de ninguna manera muestra que la homeopatía no funciona.
Well, to you, strange man who showed up in my house speaking Spanish, what you don't know is that you tried to go for the kill too early, because A, already acknowledged that, and B, I have a weapon that can defeat you, stranger. As you can see here, I have a review by the name of Comparison of Veterinary Drugs and Veterinary Homeopathy, Part 2.
No mames.
That's right. This review not only looked at the studies I mentioned earlier on homeopathy and came to the same conclusions that I did, but it also goes over other systematic reviews of veterinary homeopathy, and it concludes that all of them have no evidence that homeopathy works. You see, this is because the methods used in these reviews struggle to even show slight evidence for homeopathy. But they have also forgotten other important controls that would effectively show that homeopathy is worthless. Now to destroy you like George Bush did the Twin. Now to destroy you like that plane did the Twin Towers. Ha! Now that I brought up the review, I should go over more of it, as it actually helps drive the point home on why EBVM is better than homeopathy in the first place. Let me bring up 2 important things mentioned in this review: pharmacodynamics and pharmacokinetics. Pharmacodynamics is the science of how the drug affects the cellular molecules of the animal being given the drug or the parasite in or on the animal. Pharmacokinetics is the science of what happens to the drug when the body is done absorbing it, including things like the organ's involvement in biotransformation. Understanding these sciences help inform scientists and doctors whether these drugs can be useful or not. Of course, these aren't the only things that scientists look at when it comes to medicine. Things like species, efficacy, and potency must also be taken into account. To do this, scientists will need to use evidence, and on top of that, the evidence has to be able to be replicated further. And while evidence-based medicine in general isn't perfect, it's still leagues above homeopathy or any form of alternative medicine. And that's because it has science to back it up. Hell, my dumbass is probably missing a lot of technical shit that would just drive the point home, but I'm a little drunk. Okay, I'm drunker than you think, but hey, it's a placebo effect for me, alright? It makes me feel good even though it doesn't do anything. After all, the placebo effect is why homeopathy seems to work for a lot of people even though it does nothing. And while it might work for humans, for other animals, well... You see, the placebo effect does exist in animals to an extent. For example, in Wilson et al. 2010, horses with heaves who received acupuncture showed no differences in recovery than horses that were being padded. This would be the closest thing to a placebo effect in animals. After all, they don't know what the fuck you're putting in them, whether it be alt-med or evidence-based medicine. Even if the alt-medicine isn't working for the pet, it's quite possible that the vet, owner, or both think that it is working, even though the pet is slowly dying. Now, if you think what I'm saying is a little sus because, you know, I had a couple of drinks, you can always read this here. It's a review. It's part 1 of the one I did earlier when I was arguing with that Spanish dude. Who was that anyway? Why was there a luchador in my fucking house? Well, speaking of the placebo effect, there's one more thing I should touch on before I end this video, and that's personal testimonies. They're worthless. They're absolutely worthless. Here's why. Imagine, if you will, there's a woman stuck at home, sick with the flu, and she decides that drinking the cups of sperm in a refrigerator will help cure her flu. And chance has it, after 2 days of being sick with the flu and drinking sperm, her flu is gone. She then decides to run to the internet to give her testimony about how drinking cups of sperm can help cure the flu. Would you really believe that? Would you believe her testimony because she feels that's what happened to her? Of course you fucking wouldn't. Nobody's that fucking stupid. Listen, I don't care how many testimonies there are either. A bunch of thoughts can march towards my house like an angry mob, raise their cup of sperm in the air and say, "Come eat the flu, ooh woo." It still means absolutely fucking nothing because there are no controls and there's no evidence that it was the sperm that cured her flu. After all, we have something known as an immune system. So yes, at the end of the day, personal testimonies mean jack shit. Get some scientific evidence. You know, this might be the alcohol talking, but I actually love Christmas, even though it is the time of year when my nightmares come to visit me. And it is around this time of year where people often receive pets. Hell, I got my late birds around Christmas time. Pets end up being the greatest friends we ever have, as their love can surpass that of even humans. However, we must take care of our furry, feathery, scaly, whatever type of thing this is, friends. And homeopathy is one of the worst things you can use on your pet. The shit is useless and it won't help them at all. So this Christmas, make sure to remember that homies don't use this Christmas, please remember that homies don't use homeopathy on their homies, nor do they let other people do it. Now do your pet a favor, and if it gets sick, take it to a vet who will use actual fucking medicine!